Hey guys, Lewis here from thelanguagescientist.com, and in this video I'm going to be talking about basically learning Japanese vocabulary fast. How do you do this? Because it is a crucial aspect of learning Japanese. If you want to be fluent in Japanese or in any language, as I always say, you need to know about the 5,000 most common words in that language. That is going to cover about 98% of all of the sort of daily use of that language that you're ever going to need. So 98%, it means that, if you have 100 words that you meet in, you go to Japan, then you're going to understand and be able to use about 98% of them, which is a very high percentage. At this point, you should have no problem actually getting around Japan and all of that stuff. So it's that's basically the number of words that you need. But how do you learn those words faster? Now, I know that in the Japanese language learning community, there is a lot of people actually use Anki to memorize words. And there is, I know that when I started learning Japanese, there were, and I think they're still around, but these decks like the Core 2K, Core 6K, and Core 10K, which are basically the 2,000 and 6,000 and 10,000 most important, most common words in Japanese. And there are a bunch of threads online of people sort of talking about this and saying, how many, if I do the Core 2K, then how many words am I going to know? What percentage of the Japanese language am I going to know? What kind of level can I expect to reach, and all of these things. And certainly I was very interested in that a few years ago, but I realized that actually the Core 2K, Core 6K, Core 10K have a pretty big problem. And I'm not saying they're not effective, they really are, but here's the main problem. It's super boring. I mean, there's no other way of putting this. It's super boring because what you're going to find in the Core 2K and the Core 6K and the Core 10K, any kind of pre-made deck, is that it's pre-made phrases. In Core 2K, 6K, and 10K, it's phrases, okay, in Japanese, and you have to learn them. And they're pretty generic. They're not interesting. They're not attached to any kind of story at all, and it's not attached to any sort of deep meaning in your mind. Okay, it's just a phrase, essentially a generic phrase. The problem with this is there are two issues that I see and that I have experienced myself. Is that, first of all, it's so boring that you're going to want to give up because Anki, when you download those decks like the Core 2K, 6K, or 10K, you're going to be going at it for multiple months, if not multiple years, depending on what pace you use. But if you really have to do this for multiple years, just freaking like every single day with those flashcards, going through them every single day for multiple minutes or even an hour plus, it's so boring that you're going to give up at some point. And that's certainly what I did. I did it for multiple months, pretty hardcore, and then I gave up. And guess what? That was a waste of time because now I don't remember. Well, now I know the words that were in there because I found other ways of learning them, but all of this time and effort that I spent just trying to study with Core 2K and Core 6K and Core 10K, all of that time, pretty much all of that time, was essentially wasted because I gave up. And when you use Anki, it's very, very important that you don't give up. It's a long-term sort of investment that you need to make in yourself, because Anki is based around the concept, around the idea that you're not just going to learn a word and review it a few times. It's you learn a word or you learn a phrase, and you're going to remember it, and you're going to need to review it for years, and that's how it works. So that was pretty much a waste of time. My second contention with all those pre-made decks and super boring decks is that just because of the fact that it's boring and it's generic and it's not really, it's just like just a sentence, just a phrase, just a word out of the blue. Is that the expression? I'm not really sure, but just because it's some random phrase, very generic, you're not going to remember it very well. Now compare this, I'm going to show you right now, with Anki right now, what I'm doing is that I'm using Netflix to actually make flashcards. And here you have a sample flashcard. It's a game that tests how much you can trust others. And the word I'm trying to learn here in this sentence is, or the expression is, how much. And you probably know how to say how much in Japanese already. It's pretty common, but if I remember correctly, in this flashcard here, it's a little bit more of it's a special expression. いかに相手を信頼できるかのゲームです。There you go. So that's basically what I said. So いかに. So this is something that I would personally, I would understand it if a Japanese speaker said it, but this is not necessarily something that I would say, by myself, on my own. I would recognize it, but I would not be able to produce it. So, all right. So this is just an example of how I learn vocabulary now, how you can learn Japanese vocabulary fast, because if you're using Anki and you're using those pre-made decks that are so boring and not really memorable just because it's so generic. And here I'm using Netflix. This is Alice in Borderland Season 2. This is highly memorable. I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life because it's so interesting, and I have reviewed it multiple times using Anki. So this is basically my rant on how to learn Japanese vocabulary fast. This is how you should do it, in my opinion. And, let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to find more content, then you can go to thelanguagescientist.com. It's my website, and I'll see you there.